I'm Matt Bouchard with REIT.com here in San Francisco for REIT World 2013. Joining me is Liz Peace, the Chief Executive of the British Property Federation. Liz, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Here in the U.S., the office sector has been a little slower to recover than some of the other commercial property sectors. How has that played out in the U.K.?
Well, I think the whole UK recovery is a very sort of mixed patchwork, as we would call it. It depends very much on where you are and what type of property you've got. So basically the sort of grade A stuff is doing pretty well, particularly in London, be that office or retail. It's doing very well in a number of the regional cities that are, big and prosperous. It's not doing terribly well in the very much the secondary location. So secondary property in a secondary location, not a particularly happy picture. So as I say, it's very, very mixed. It just depends what you've got and precisely where it is. But I wouldn't particularly say the office sector's been behind the rest. And it's very interesting in London particularly. We've got a lot of new build coming online, but there seems to be a feeling that once the recovery really gets going, so once we're looking at 2015, 2016 onwards, we might actually be quite short of grade A office space. Companies moving in, will be looking for something big and special, and an awful lot of it will have been taken up and there won't be the pipeline.
And the last time that we had the chance to sit down for a video like this, it was on the eve of the London Olympics. And you were very optimistic about what that would do to the property market. So now that we've had a little time since then, how has that played out, and has there been a sustained growth?
Well, I think the Olympics were great for confidence generally. I think London absolutely sort of embraced the Olympics. Indeed, I think a lot of the UK did, despite much of the negative comment from sort of outside of London. It's difficult to point to very specific property effects, but I mean one particular one has been a big fillip to the residential market, because the area that was the athletes' village, we're talking about 2,800 units, is now coming into the market. One half of it going to be entirely market rent. So I suppose it'll be the equivalent of what you would call a multifamily facility. The other half, affordable housing, being run by a housing association. So the multifamily half of that is giving that whole sector a real boost, because people are now seeing a large-scale rented operation as being something that's feasible. We're using a lot of the stuff around the Olympic Park. The whole Stratford area is doing very well, which it absolutely wouldn't have done if we hadn't had the Olympics there. But I think, frankly, the rest of London, it sort of grows on the back of London almost. Olympics or not, you can't keep London down. It's a place everywhere everybody wants to be.
And last question, what sort of regulatory developments or issues are you keeping your eye on for the next year?
Oh gosh, where does one begin? Well, first of all, general observation, we're effectively getting into the sort of run-up to to the next election. They seem to get longer and longer, these run-ups. I know you're used to that here, and campaign for a year or whatever. That sort of constrains the ability of a government to do a lot, because they just haven't got the time in sort of parliamentary time. However, that doesn't stop them taking some relatively sort of knee-jerk approaches to things that hit the headlines. The one we're actually quite worried about at the moment is the whole approach to high-end residential, particularly in London. Who's actually buying it? Now, the government have got a couple of things possibly on the agenda. The coalition partners, our Liberal Democrats, are very keen on the idea of a mansion tax, which would be a one-off annual payment on big houses over a certain size. That, I think, has unnerved the property industry quite a lot. They're very, very concerned about the impact of that, and we've been looking at possible alternatives. The second thing that spooked people a bit is a lot of negative press coverage about foreign purchase of apartments, particularly in London. Is this depriving, the normal common or garden Londoner of somewhere to live? I mean, of course, it's absolutely rubbish. It isn't, because if it wasn't for the foreign investors, the thing wouldn't get built in the first place, because it's new build, bought off plan, all this sort of thing. But again, what politicians are like, they must rush in and fix it. So we're busy trying to sort of prove that this isn't a negative effect overall for London. And that actually we don't want to do anything to spook overseas investors, who are a huge benefit to the economy.
Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
That's all right.
For more on this and other REIT news and analysis, be sure to visit REIT.com.